So this show is going to take on a little bit of a different tone than I normally do. And I really just want to dedicate an entire show to all of the questions that we're getting right now. And you know, as you listen, you might find things that are applicable. You might find things you already know. Maybe some things you didn't know. But really just to kind of bounce around and go from topic to topic. We've got some questions about the market. We've got questions about the buying process, about the selling process. I don't have them in any particular order because we just printed off the list of questions we got. If you're not interacting with us on Facebook, by the way, just do a search for the Brian Beatty team on Facebook. We do some great stuff on there. So we'd love to connect with you there. But this is where some of these questions came from. And so we're just going to start there in no particular order. And so the first one is, when my home was on the market, this is from Sally in North Charleston. Sally, thank you, by the way, if you're listening. But she said, when my home was on the market, the majority of agents and buyers seemed like they knew nothing about my house before they came to see it. People kept saying things like, well, we wanted a master downstairs, or the house was too small, or we didn't like the area. All of these things are things we can't do anything about. Why aren't agents qualifying people before they show homes? This was my biggest frustration with the process. So I'm going to start there because that is a very common frustration that sellers have. You know, here we are. We've spent all this time and energy and effort and maybe even some money preparing your home for sale. You get a showing request, which you're excited about. But you have to clean up your house. You've got to, you know, maybe throw your kids and a dog or two in the car. You've got to basically disappear for an hour. And so every time we leave the house or we prep for a showing, I mean, it's probably about a 2 hour, maybe even 3 or 4 hour process, depending upon, you know, what condition your home is in that you kind of live in throughout the day. I realize that most people do not live like their home is show ready and ready for the Pope to walk through the front door. So there's effort and there's time and there's a lot of frustration with that because we get it too. And we try as best we can to eliminate things like that from happening. Because really there isn't much worse than picking up your home, leaving for an hour, driving around, coming back, getting feedback, and then the buyer saying something like, well, the buyers liked the house, but you know, they were visiting family. They still live in Florida. They're thinking of retiring next year. They'd have to sell their business and then sell their house and then buy yours. And it's just like there's really no reason at all why that showing should have occurred in the first place. And I'll tell you why this is happening. And this has been going on for a number of years. And it's something that we talk about when we sit down with clients. And that is the fact that when, you know, I guess back in the day, quote unquote, when I first got licensed, there was no service that allowed you to kind of coordinate showings efficiently. It was you called the listing agent called the seller called the listing agent, which called the buyer agent, which called the buyer, and you know we had to do all of that scheduling ourselves. So things have changed. We now have a third-party company that takes care of all of that for us. You simply go online and an agent selects the properties and the dates and the times that they want to see them. That service will then reach out to the sellers. The seller gets a phone call, an email, a text, or a notification in their app, and they confirm it or decline it or reschedule it. But then as soon as that happens, then the agent showing the property receives notification of either showing confirmation or that it was declined or rescheduled and the showing instructions. So what's really nice about that is that, you know, I don't have to have my phone surgically attached to my face. You know, God forbid I miss a phone call and it's a showing on one of my listings. We use the service for that. But we qualify showings. Now, I will say as a caveat, because this is not applicable to every listing in every situation. Obviously, if a home is vacant, we're not going to spend the time to qualify each showing unless it's one of our high-end listings in which we need to be there personally to show them the property, because nobody wants to waste their time for somebody that's just not ready to buy. But for other properties where, you know, it is a hassle for you to get out of the house, for you to clean it, prep it, and then just kind of disappear for an hour. I wish that we could promise that this happens every time right now, but the reality is on some of our listings, we'll get 30 showing requests in a 24, 48-hour period. And tracking down, I mean, we all know how bad agents are about communication in general and the fact that they just don't answer their phone. So getting all of them on the phone to pre-qualify those showings is a severe challenge. It's almost like you can guarantee that it's not going to happen 100% of the time. But what we do is that we have the seller confirm that the date and the time works. And then we call the agent. It's just a double confirmation process. I want to make sure that the people that are walking through the home are in a position to make an offer if they like what they see. I've verified that they're either paying cash or they're pre-approved for a mortgage. And then I have explained some things to them about the property that I think make it unique. You know, the features of the home that I want them to point out to their buyer. And I'm also going to get some information from them. You know, what was it about this home that your buyers were interested in? What's their situation? And I'll tell you, and I know agents listen to the show, and so for those that do listen, you know, kind of the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. But it's part of our confirmation process, so we're not really hiding anything. We ask the questions, and you'd be amazed at the information that some of these agents give us. Basically, we're getting information about the buyer that they shouldn't be divulging. You know, they just sold their home in Atlanta, and now they're living in a hotel. Or, you know, they're staying in a Airbnb, or they've got a place locked up to rent for the next 2 months. But after that, it's going to be a serious challenge for them to find somewhere else to go. And so now we have this information. We know that the buyer's back is against the wall from a timing standpoint. What do you think that does to us in terms of leverage when we're negotiating? It improves it. Had I not asked that question and had we not had that information, we might not have known that. And so, yes, I am providing information so that the showing is more productive, because that's the problem, is the agent that represents the buyer and the agent that represents the seller, they're just not talking to one another anymore before showing. It's either a challenge or an opportunity, depending upon how you look at it. We view it as an opportunity to educate people about our properties before they go and see it, so that the agent can answer the buyer's questions, so that they have knowledge of the property while they're walking through it. But, you know, this comment, Sally, is on point. I mean, it is a major frustration of sellers, because in the grand scheme of things, anything that an agent can replace with technology or a system that saves them time, that saves them work, effort, they're going to do. We just think it's important that, especially for those that, you know, they've got kids at home or they've got a dog, there's things that have to happen in order for them to leave the house. We want to make sure that the people are there, positioned and ready to make an offer if they like what they see. So that was a great question, or great comment, rather. And, you know, so speaking of pre-approval and just making sure the buyers are ready to buy, I got another question that asked, why are agents so pushy about getting pre-approvals before they'll show me homes? That's a great question. You know, when I'm coaching my agents, one thing that I want to make really clear is that we put ourselves in the shoes of a buyer. So think about this. Think about the last time you bought a car. You pulled up, somebody's kind of chomping at the bit, ready to introduce themselves to you, maybe even as soon as you're getting out of the car. How do you think that process would have gone if they said, hey, so great to meet you, glad you're here. You know, tell me what kind of cars you're interested in. You say, oh, you know, shopping for, you know, a Mercedes coupe or sedan or whatever. They'll say, great. Well, I'll tell you what, before we start looking at some cars, why don't we go and have a conversation with my finance manager? Let's pull your credit and let's see what your finances look like. And then if all that's in line, then we'll go and we'll talk about some cars. We'll go test drive some cars. You would think they're crazy. But we as agents tend to, I think, overvalue our time, if I'm being honest. Now, I get it. If an agent has so many clients right now that they do have to be really picky and choosy with their time, then it's up to them. I mean, they run their business the way they want to run their business. If they're only going to show properties to people that are pre-approved beforehand, so be it. From our perspective, I want you to at least be open to the conversation, but I also want to be realistic about your time frame. So in other words, we don't require you to get pre-approved to go and see a house. And because other agents are not qualifying their showings, it's pretty easy to get into a house without having to, go through that line of questioning like we put agents through. And there's benefit to that. You actually want to walk through some homes. You want to see if there are some properties that get you excited enough about the process to go and actually buy something. You probably don't want to go through the process of preparing and putting your home on the market if you can't find something to move into. So it makes perfect logical sense that you want to go out and look at some properties first. But I think that if you're in a position where if you see something you like and you want to buy it, you do have to act quickly in this market. There are multiple offers more often than not on properties when they hit the market. So you need to be prepared. You need to have that pre-approval because just like agents are busy, just like everybody in the world is busy right now, so are lenders. And we do a really good job in selecting our lender partners to make sure that they are ready, willing, and able to produce same-day pre-approval letters, sometimes within just an hour. But they can't do that if you haven't been through the process of providing your credit, having them check your credit, providing information on assets and debt so they can calculate your debt-to-income ratio. So, that's why some agents are getting so pushy about pre-approvals. It's probably because they're either really busy and they don't want to spend their time with somebody that's not serious about the process. But I think everybody has to start somewhere. So we will show properties to folks that are not pre-approved, but at some point in time, it's kind of a necessary evil. So we let you take your time on that. We just don't want, the last thing we want is for you to see something that you love and that you want to do something about, right? You actually want to buy it, but then you miss out because there was too much time that lapsed between the time you said, yep, I'm interested, I want to make an offer, and the time that you actually got a pre-approval letter. Because let's be honest, a seller would have to be an idiot in this kind of a market to take an offer without a pre-approval letter. There are way too many people out there that are spending good money on homes, that are increasing their down payments, that are electing to pay cash to strengthen their offer. Now, again, if you're a seller and you have no other options and you've been on the market for months and this is the first person that showed up, then maybe it's worth the risk. Maybe it's worth the gamble. You always have to be thinking about the opportunity cost, though. So we're going to take a break, but we're going to come back with some more of these questions. We've got several more to go through. And like I mentioned, we're just kind of bouncing around, talking about different things, challenges that people are having in this market, questions and concerns that they have, so that you as a listener are better prepared if you're in a position to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here in the next little while. And if you want to reach out to me, you want to have a conversation off air about your interest in buying or selling or investing in real estate. Yes, there are still investment deals out there, by the way. We'll get to that. Then my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can go to listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.